Girls on Tour is a book club that aims to keep us connected while shining a light on some badass women and gender diverse people within the entertainment industry. Touring can be incredibly boring and sometimes very isolating. Having stories to connect over can make us feel close no matter how far apart we are. So what you didn't expect is that I would share emotions.
Oh God.
Because, hi, this is the Girls on Tour book club. Today we have read a book called Roadies, which is a collection of stories and chapters by Australian road crew from like the 70s, 80s, 90s to the present day. Great book. Very good times. I am warning you now, we will read it again at some point because there are so many stories in here and so much potential for that to relate to certain guests, and this is my book club and I make the rules. Anyway, today.
That is the correct answer.
When I thought about interviewing and talking to specifically women in the industry about their careers and their impact and all of the things, there is no way that I couldn't have talked to you. When I did an episode with Matilda, she talked about how women are going to get places if we go together, and our careers have held hands for a lot of the way because we went to uni together.
We
and
did.
then
We sure
I feel
did.
like every step of the way of our careers, we've opened doors for each other, which is so very wholesome. And I feel like every time I've ever been asked if I know someone for a job, my first go-to has always been you and Maddie. And I know that you guys have done the same for me, and that my career would not be what it is in any capacity without our relationship.
Is this where the emotion comes in?
Yes,
Because
the emotions.
I'm feeling
Yes.
it.
And it's a really beautiful reflection of how the people that you know champion you and can further your career and the ways that women uplift each other in the industry. So I could not do an episode talking about this without having you here at some point. And also this book, we talk to so many different people across so many different roles in the industry, and you have done every role.
Too many.
Too many.
Too many.
Just so many roles. So there was no one better to talk to. If you were to give me a general rundown of your career, how you even wanted to do it, because we met in uni. We went to uni together for sound. When I think about it, I don't know why you did that. How you got there, what happened.
Well, we were kind of talking about this before, and we're going straight into failed musician. Yeah, I mean, I guess I always played in bands and whatnot in high school and started to get into like being a session musician. There was no money. How do you sustain that? I kind of wanted to be in the music industry to some extent, and I also did like entertainment and did musicals in high school. And then that is kind of how I ended up flipping to the other side of, you know, obviously not on the stage. I was like at the console doing lighting and audio and everything. And that was really exciting. I think that there were a lot of people, specifically like my entertainment teacher in high school, that I wouldn't be where I was now without him. Like he was like so encouraging and so helpful and really started my passion with audio. So I think in that general sense, failed musician into audio engineer is definitely a big thing.
I want us to, in 2024, reframe the failed musician to tech pipeline, because let me tell you what it really is. Because the people who tell you that crew are failed musicians are musicians. Because the reality is, in my life experience and beliefs, the reality is I want to make the music industry my career. There's no money in playing in, and any musician will tell you, there is no money anymore in playing gigs unless you're fucking Taylor Swift, Post Malone. Until you are a top 100 radio sensation, you will still have to fight to make music a livable income. Whereas for us, I was 19 being the most paid person in the room working a full lineup of bands because we were working a job that wasn't seen as a hobby, which fucking sucks. And I wish that wasn't the case.
I mean, I know a lot of people that are session musicians that are quite big in the Australian music scene, but they've worked their fucking asses off. Can we swear in this?
Yes.
Okay.
You think I don't swear?
I was like,
Me?
look, but they've worked their fucking asses off, you know? Obviously, this industry is so competitive and so cutthroat. It's so hard to still maintain friendships in the industry. That's the biggest thing that I've learned in these past few years, and that's really hard sometimes.
It's impossible not to work with friends. Like you end up working with people who become your friends, and once you start blurring the boundaries of friend and co-worker, it's really easy for people to take advantage of you.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so you wanted to do sound then?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah, and then basically I went straight into university. Kids, don't do that. Don't go into university for audio. It's not necessary. There's no single way that is necessary. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I really was going to like baby step us into that question of we
Don't
study.
do it.
We're going to have to jump back to your career because the uni chat needs to happen. So we both studied at the same time. I dropped out. I dropped to half-time study and then I completely dropped out because I could not balance the studying and the working full-time because I was working full-time. So were you. I couldn't balance that, and a lot of the kids we went to uni with were very lucky to be supported by their families in a way that was not possible for us. The playing field was different, and also I felt like I wasn't learning anything that I actually wanted to learn.
Especially the university we went to, the subjects were so broad. There's nothing that exactly honed your craft in necessarily. Like whether or not you want to do live sound, you can't choose that as your actual subjects to learn. You just learn many things, and that's especially when you're coming into the industry. I found that really hard because I don't know what I want to do. Like, yes, we're like touching on all of these subjects, but you know, obviously what if I choose something that I'm genuinely passionate about? I have no option to go into that. Whereas I feel like having another option of, I don't know, going into like a studio and doing time there, shadowing someone in live sound is probably a way better option of getting into the industry than paying $60,000 to have someone be like, hey, audio, there's these things to do. Which one do you want to do? I don't know, but you're going to spend 3 years trying to work that out.
Yeah. To talk about university as a structure for a second, a lot of sound degrees are done by private universities. And when they're private, it means that they get to pick their curriculum. They pick how much it costs. So they are typically overcharging you to teach you something that has not been, like that they've just decided is what you need to learn. From my memory, and I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. We had like 2 live sound classes and they were theory.
I touched nothing at all with my hands for a very long period of time.
That made me really annoyed because I went into that space being like, I want to do live sound. I have no interest in studio recording, none. And they were like, of course, we know how to do that. You've lied to me. Copy. Did not do that. And then I also felt like we rinsed and repeated subjects later on in the degree. If I could go back, I would do just the diploma. That first year that we did, I loved, and I think I loved it more because of our group of friends and the social aspect of figuring out how to be a person and an adult and being in Sydney. But the rest of it,
well, I mean, if you're doing it for those reasons, just go to TAFE.
Just go to TAFE.
Go to TAFE.
Go to TAFE.
Get some diploma at TAFE. I feel like I spoke to a lot of people that actually went to TAFE for live sound specifically, and they were out on the field doing jobs. On the field. Field work. What does that feel like? I don't know. Yeah, they were actually pushed to do these jobs, whether or not it was like shadowing someone or someone watching them as they're doing sound. Like, I know that a lot of people did it at NIDA, and that's really cool too because they have an actual theatre and platform for people to actually learn there.
And their live production course seems, which I haven't done it, wanted to do it, and then I didn't for some reason. Dickhead. Their live production course encompasses like many aspects of tech, sound, stage management, lighting, which the way that nobody ever said anything to me about doing lighting when I was studying sound, but the moment I stepped out of uni or I started getting jobs, it was like, you can do lights too, right? And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna just pay you to do sound, but you also need to do lighting at the same time.
Let me tell you, aspiring sound engineers with my full chest, if you are working in a small venue, in a small festival, anywhere, you will be the only tech. You will be expected to do video, lighting, sound, all at once. So maybe dabble in a bit of lighting if you would like to do that, because nobody gets to the point, in my experience, where they are solely operating sound without doing those gigs. And it also makes me sad for lighting people. I'm like, what did you guys do?
Where have you been?
What did you guys do? Did you have to like wing sound? Did you have to do the alternative?
I have spoken to a couple of lighting techs that tell me that a lot of the time they're doing lighting in like really dingy clubs.
Yeah.
You know, for a very extended period of time. That's not fun.
Ours is like shit little gigs. Theirs is like
raves until 4 a.m. Like, I don't know if I could sustain that, but that's an interesting choice.
So your career.
Yeah. Went to uni and did sound, yes. Kind of on the side, I dabbled in artist management quite a lot.
You say dabbled so casually.
It's not dabbled. We went straight into there. Yeah, I mean, I went straight into artist management, and I think that was so important for me as a female to go into exactly where I did at that point, because the management team that I went into was all females. Very encouraging. It was very uplifting. There was a lot of, support there that I don't think that I would have stayed in in the industry unless I had them with me, which is huge. There was a lot of things that happened at university and when I first started in audio that really deterred me from being in the industry at all in general. And a lot of this is in the book. And it's very crazy that this is such a broad shared experience with most people in the industry. I feel like that's the case.
Yeah.
You know, I think that obviously there's a lot of lost opportunities for women over the last 5 to 10 years. It's definitely gotten better and the process is better and there's a lot more encouragement, but it's definitely not where it should be at. So without them, I don't think I would be in the industry at all. I started in artist management. I started managing artists from that perspective and was there for quite a long time and then moved to another agency and then opened my own artist management agency, which was very exciting. Just dabbled, you know. Obviously, all of my experiences and all my knowledge from working in those companies and agencies were brought into my company. And then we ended up doing like Asia tour, which was amazing. They got into Eurovision, which is nuts. And yeah, it escalated pretty quickly and it was very exciting to have that as my own because there were so many things that I wasn't able to do as like a freelance artist management. Yeah, that was really interesting and also really encouraging to have people surrounding me and being very supportive like that. I guess that kind of stopped when COVID happened, which is another thing, but I stopped doing artist management then because at that point it was like not.
I have no idea what the future holds for
what
you.
Is this?
Yeah, what the fuck are we doing?
What's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just such a long period of time of trying new things and it just never worked and dissipated very quickly. But then audio picked up a lot in that regard.
But you were still doing a lot of audio work.
Yeah, like I think the good thing about being a freelancer is that you can kind of pick and choose what you do and you can work around your hours, I guess, in that sense. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't being freelance. So yeah, I did that. And then I was also head of sound for So Far Sydney and booking artists with that for a long time, which was great.
In between me calling you crying, asking you to come work at 2 different venues
every
day.
Much. Yeah. And that was great. I met like a lot of local artists in Sydney and also traveled a lot around Australia doing that, which was cool. And a lot of artists that I worked with So Far Sydney I ended up doing tours with and working with a lot, which kind of opened a lot of doors for me. That was also pretty huge when I was pretty young. So I think that was like kind of a big opening the door for me, which is cool.
The romantic idea I had about touring, I was like, oh my God, I just want to be on tour. And now I'm touring and I'm like, oh,
I don't know how I feel about this.
I only have a pan to cook and a microwave.
I love touring. I think there's a real double-edged sword with that. I love touring because you get to experience new places with new people and it's very exciting. Working all of these things out in a different state, it's very challenging, which sometimes just makes you learn. But there's also the side of things where you just get really lonely being by yourself. And that's kind of why I stopped touring, because I just couldn't imagine being by myself for such long periods of time and not having my friends around me and not having some kind of stability, I guess. That's kind of the biggest thing. Yeah, with touring, it's very exciting, but the side of things where you're kind of just left to your own devices can be very challenging sometimes, I think. Yeah, touring is great, but
it suits very specific people. You kind of have to make a commitment to touring at some point. Like everyone that I know who's been touring for years and years and years, if they're really lucky, they've been touring with the same crew and band for forever. So it's like they've got their community in that sense. Yeah. But that only works if you have a band and a crew that you like. They talk about this experience a lot in the book. The main roadie that they would work with back in the day, or the small crew that they had, I think it's Chisel, have the same crew that they've had since the 70s, which is wild, but also so fucking smart. Because let me tell you one fact. If I don't like you, I will do my job. If I like you, I will do literally anything.
I'll walk to the ends of the earth.
I will ride at dawn to make your show happen in a way where you feel happy and comfortable. The degree to which you invest yourself in your job when you like the people you're working with really is dramatic. You feel it. And to have the same crew for decades, you are getting the best work out of people.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, they're fucking family, basically.
Yeah. It's so
really
rare. I mean, I can't imagine that happening that often anymore.
I just don't think it would. Like the industry is not set up in a way where it would be possible. No band who's doing an East Coast tour of pub gigs has the income to pay to take a tech with them.
No way.
Like it just doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Which partially, I used to be really sad about that. Like I really romanticized this era of the industry, which I'm partially glad about because I think it made me willing to overwork myself at the time that I needed to when I first started. Like I was like, they're all tired, so I want to be tired.
Do I though? Do I? No. We've learned.
We've swung.
Yeah.
The pendulum has swung
It
so
really
severely, and
has.
I'm like, oh. And this is talked about a lot in the book, the way that the industry has been such a beautiful, wonderful thing in their life, but also the repercussions of working in an industry like this, especially in a time where there was no health and safety, there was no real structure of super and tax, blah, 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 like all that kind of stuff. Like they were just freelancers with no quantifiable skill set because there was no degrees, there was no whatever, who gave up relationships with their family and friends so that they could go on tour for the rest of their lives and broke their bodies because there were no rules about what you could do and what you couldn't do and someone overseeing that. So they just broke themselves to get the job done. And part of the reason why Support Act was made was because a whole bunch of crew from this era just started committing suicide because they're old now. They can't work. Their bodies are fucked. Their lives are fucked.
They got no money.
Like, well,
they got nothing.
They've got no money. They have no families. They have no physical comfort. And so they felt so helpless. And I think part of the reason why I wanted to talk to women and continue conversations throughout my career around that is because I don't want to see how that impacts generations of women as we get older, because things are different for us purely because we are not men.
I mean, it's an interesting discussion, but also at the same time, I think that's just the reality of a lot of it. Like, how many tours or how many shows do you work on where you work a normal schedule? It just doesn't happen.
What's a normal schedule?
Exactly. What, like a 38-hour week? Like that's not a thing. Like we don't do that. Like the way that we work is just for the show, based around show. Like that's pretty much it. You're working like 50, 60 hours a week. Like, minimum.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a full production, maybe you're doing 80 hours a week. Yeah. It's nuts. It's intense.
Because I'd been doing this for a hot second. Yeah. So I really had this like zoom out moment when I got injured last year from the mic stands on Tina. When I got injured and I went to see the physio so I could do the work cover thing, the normal GP that I had to see to get a referral for the physio, she was just like, get a new job. Like literally was just like, get a new job. Because when she was trying to figure out my limitations, she was like, okay, well, you can only work 4 days a week. And I was like, that makes me useless at my job.
Absolutely.
And she was like, okay, well, you can only work 5-hour shifts. And I was like, well, that also makes me useless for my job because on a double day I'm needed for a long period of time. And she was just like, well, then you can't lift over this. And I was like, well, then I actually can't do my job. So they'll probably just get somebody else to do it. Trying to explain what was actually required for my job and then the hours, get a new job. Ooh. I feel like we've skipped some options that we could have looked at. It's a thing that you will constantly deal with your whole career of people not understanding your schedule, even just to the degree of your family and friends making plans for a Friday or Saturday night and expecting that you can join. And you're like, that's my work time.
In 6 months' time on a Friday or Saturday, I can't come. Yeah. I'm so sorry. It's not happening. I know this, we needed a Tuesday night, Monday night, guys. I guess no one talks about it. There's no awareness of how this industry works, so no one knows about it. So when you start telling people the conditions that you work under, they're like, wait, backtrack. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think most people will have to deal with stuff like that in their industry or in their workplace, like to the extent that we do.
Maybe this is just the personality type that makes me the kind of person who can do this job, but it's also fun. I really enjoy having the heinous obstacle of a bump in and it getting done. I love being in bump in and bump out for some reason. I have problems. It's quite a calm space where everyone in the building is just like slowly working towards a goal and you start to see things come together. Everyone's in pretty good spirits unless things are going catastrophically wrong or catastrophically behind. It's just a whole bunch of people who know that they're working long hours, know that they're doing a long haul and they're just there to make each other's lives easier. Most people survive in that setting if they're good under pressure. If you're not good under pressure, you will not have a good time. And it's kind of a nice space to be in. I don't know. I really enjoy it, which thank God. Otherwise, this year would suck for me so
pretty
bad.
Much. Oh, if my life is not in chaos, I can't function. Is that a good way to maintain your life? Probably not.
Therapists, leave us some comments.
Please go below and let me know how terrible my life is because I'd love to know. But yeah, if it's not chaotic and if there's not lots of things happening, and I work better under stress.
I need to be motivated.
I need to be challenged by something. Otherwise, I can't do anything. Like I'm not the type of person to like sit at home and just twiddle my thumbs. Like that's not that's not the person that I am. And I think that's why the industry is kind of toxic sometimes, because there's us.
It relies on us
It's
being
us.
like that. Yeah.
Exactly. There's no one else that would work in this industry, I don't think.
If they didn't have that, yeah. I would love to work in music theatre in the States for a little bit, because their structure is, from what I've seen, so unionized to the point where it's very like, this is your job. This is your job. This is how long we work for. Like, you know how orchestras have a break every like 3 seconds?
Yeah.
That vibe, they don't have breaks every 3 seconds. But in comparison to other places where they don't have such
I
a
will
strict
not work
union.
3 hours over this time, otherwise I'm leaving.
Is it strings have a break every 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Every 20 minutes. Their union goes crazy.
Someone help us.
I'd love to work in the States at that point, which they talk about it in roadies a bit. People from Australia who then go and work other places and be told that they can't do everything, that they have to like stay in their lane, when I feel like the culture of working here, until you get to places where it is high budget, let's be honest, is whatever needs to get done, someone do it. Bye. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the vibe, which I really enjoy, which I think is why we thrived in a fringe setting.
Oh, yes.
Because it was like, the tent is latex, it's 40 degrees, your console needs to be moved across stage. Also, nothing works. Have fun.
yeah,
You've never
good
seen
luck.
this console in your life. It hasn't been used since the 80s. Bye.
Did you record the actual conversation that I had with them? Because that kind of sounded what it was like. That kind of was very challenging, working fringe festival circuits and doing that whole thing, because they just throw you into
And you
any situation.
really got thrown into that.
Yeah.
For the context, I went to work. This is in 2020. This is just before the world shut down.
Yes, it really
I went
is.
to work at the Adelaide Fringe Festival, and we were days away from the festival opening, and we're all like partway through tech, blah, blah, blah. And someone says to me, we desperately need a tech to come in for this venue. Does anyone know anyone? And I was like, hey, do you want to come to Adelaide for a month and a half? And you went, yeah, okay. And then literally, the next day you flew in to live there for like a month and a half, and just got so thrown in the deep end. And you were like, well,
this is my life now.
this is my life now.
I'd walk into the venue and there'd be ducks sitting on my seats ready to watch a show. And I was like, cool, guys.
Did you get your tickets?
Yes.
I loved that festival. It was so much fun.
That was, honestly, that was like the highlight of my career, that festival in
It
particular.
really was like running away with the circus though. Like, I don't think that is at least the way that I did it then, because I was young and it was my first time working in a space like that. I had no boundaries. We were out like every night with everybody, because everyone, like artists, crew, everyone would go to the venue bar that we had afterwards. Everyone is going out after. So if you're not doing that, you're kind of getting left out. And I don't even know how old I was. I can't remember. Maths hurts, but I felt very young. When I look back at myself, I'm like, who is this fucking infant? I have to stay out because everybody else is staying out. And
that's just the culture of it.
Yeah. Whereas now I think I'd be like, I need 8 hours of sleep minimum.
It's my
It's
bedtime.
my time.
I just sleep now.
What are you doing?
Exactly.
That party culture still exists in the industry to a degree, but I feel like as you get older, it gets, you either go one of two ways.
Yep.
You really lean into it and it becomes your lifestyle, or you go, ooh, that was fun, and I'm gonna do that not every day.
No.
Actually. Whereas in roadies, they talk about how that very much became a lifestyle for a lot of people to a debilitating degree. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is how much you feel like the industry as we've worked in it, how similar it feels to the industry that we read about in like the 80s and 90s, like differences, similarities. We're not doing meth to drive places, which we love.
Who can do that? I'm really sorry, but who? It's interesting to read that. I mean, obviously, I think that that's the perception that everyone that's not in the industry has of the industry, which is nuts. Because even when I first started in the industry, like it does happen, but it definitely doesn't happen to that degree.
It's not widely accepted to do substances at work anymore.
How many rules and regulations do you have to go through when you're at a venue, you know? Like there's just so many things that you have a boundary with your workplace. You can't be doing anything really that happened in this book between the 60s and early 2000s anymore. Like it's not really feasible either. I mean, can you imagine being on drugs with the hours that we work? Like it's not, you can't maintain that lifestyle.
The right drugs, and I'd probably be way more awake at work because sometimes I'm fighting for my life.
Yeah.
But It's wild to me as someone who lives in the now where we have so much, like it's like a normal job. You can't come to work intoxicated. And because there are rules and regulations around our safety now, you cannot work intoxicated, which is also kind of funny because when I think about working in small venues, I would always be given drinks while I was working.
Absolutely.
Like the bar at the venue you'd work at, they know your order and they will bring you a drink or drinks throughout the night, or bands will buy you drinks after you mix for them. So then to go into like theatre where it was like no drinking before work, which not that I was like, but I need my Jack and Coke to get through the show.
God.
Like, but it was just a very interesting. My raspberry seltzer. In a lot of the times that we read about in this book, it was like, as long as you get the job done, no one gives a fuck what state you're in or what you did to get through it. Just wild.
Which is concerning, but yeah, it definitely doesn't happen anymore. But I guess there's like a fine line with like working with bands and working in like live sound in that respect is just way looser than it is working in like a huge theater or something like that.
Because
like,
you're making your own rules, really.
Yeah.
And unless you're employed by the venue, you're employed by the band. Their frame of work is enjoy gig, get ready for set. After we've done sound check, do set, party time. Even when they're doing their set, they're thinking about, do I have enough drinks on stage to get me through the set? Like all the bands I worked with, like it's
just beer and stuff spilt everywhere. Yes.
The idea of what the space is different, I think, where it's like, this is a party zone, we're at a gig, woo, 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 woo. Whereas when you work in films, recording studios, commercial theatre, those kind of spaces where there's like a big budget involved, they expect everyone to be showing up like, because one drunk person is fucking up, it really costs people money for things to go wrong. Whereas in a gig setting, I don't think I ever saw someone mixing who was too drunk to be mixing, personally. But I feel like maybe that's because freelancers, like if you just start fucking up on the job, you're just not going to keep getting work.
Yeah,
like,
you can't live anymore. I've seen it like a couple of times, but I feel like there's a real divide in the generations. Like I've seen it in the older generation that I've seen working with. They'll still be doing drugs and they'll still be drinking and doing things on the job. Whereas maybe if you're like just a cutoff from that age gap, like between say like us and someone that's like 30 years older than us, it's so different.
Yeah.
The mentality will die out at some point.
We've got this weird mesh at the moment of like old school crew and new school crew who are like coexisting.
It's so true. And like, I mean, I still see it all the time, but it's nuts that it's still able to go on, like people like doing coke before shows and stuff.
But who budgeted for this?
That's expensive. in this cost of living and this
capitalist hellscape? What do you mean?
I know.
Hey, it's me again. As you can probably tell, I love the hell out of a good story. Whether it's a book, a play, a movie, or even my best friends telling me their wildest dreams. I've seen so many ways to wed, and I love them all because your ceremony is the perfect place to have your story heard. So if you're looking for someone who won't focus too hard on tradition and will let your authentic self shine, I'm the celebrant for you. I can't wait to hear your love story and help you tell it. To get in touch or find out more, head to my website, www.loveburncelebrancy.com.au, or my Instagram, loveburns.celebrancy. And all of that information will be available for you at Girls on Tour.
To tack on after our tangent of career, you've now been doing a bunch of work in theatre as well.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, to tack on to the career side of things, I have been in audio and lighting for a very long time now, touring and working in small venues and working with bands. And I also doing production and work in studios as well, like for a very long period of time. Theatre is fun. Having contracts is fun.
Having a long-term contract
is fun. Having stability when you're almost 30 is really lovely. I quite like that.
It's really beautiful.
I think definitely as I've gotten older, obviously I would really love to just mix bands and, you know, tour and do all those things. But as you get older, for me personally, having stability and income and knowing when I'm going to get paid next is probably the biggest savior of my life, I guess. I really love theatre, but, you know, obviously having like 3 to 4 month contracts. I mean, obviously you're touring at the moment.
It's like a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
I've never committed to a contract that big, and I'm very interested to see how I feel about it at the end of the tour.
It will be interesting.
I'll give my thoughts and feelings. Right now, I'm fucking ready to move. We've been in Sydney for like 10 months.
Well, it'd be crazy to be doing the same show, the same people, the same stage, the same workplace, the same everything. When you're used to moving different shows. Yeah. You've done like heaps of shows, but they've been however many months, and then you moved on to the next, and now you're just like, we move on now? Is that going?
We go because very much like you, I can't just like sit in one place, and being in a long-term theatre show is like as close as you're going to get to like an office job
Absolutely.
in tech, because you go to the same place every day, you work
That's
with
a
the
really
same
good way to
people,
put it.
you do the same thing, you're getting paid better than I've been paid in any other part of the industry, which really does keep you there. Oh boy, does it ever.
Yes.
But some days I just want to rock up to a sound check and have a band tell me they brought an instrument I didn't know about, you know?
That happened to me last week, and I can tell you it's not great. But you've come late to sound check, but you want to sound check the thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, you've
boy.
actually come after doors open and you want to do a sound. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, okay.
No, you did Hosh last year and you're doing Hosh again this year, which is the
Are we
perfect.
talking about this?
Oh yeah, we are.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The people love Hosh. The people love
Do
it.
they? Okay,
yeah.
great. I love to hear it.
They love to hear it because it's such a chaotic. Like what? As soon as you're like full scale musical production outside, they're like, sorry,
Go on.
sorry.
Do everything
What?
that you're meant to do in a venue that has a roof, but outside. Let's see how that works with the orchestra and everything. And gear that costs millions of dollars. When it rains, what is that about?
Some of my fondest memories are as soon as it would start to rain and the point where the stage would start leaking underneath, because the structure of Hosh, if anyone hasn't seen the harbour productions that Opera Australia does, like on Sydney Harbour, out in the open, the harbour bridges behind it, it's very magical to look at.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So beautiful.
But not beautiful when you're under the stage.
Correct.
It's
So
leaking.
all of the cast and crew are under the stage. It is built on top of the water, and then there is like crew and cast area, and then the stage on top. And then if you go back onto the island, underneath the seating, there is like dressing rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
But the stage is not waterproof. There will come a point in rain where the stage will start to leak into what is underneath, which includes all technical departments and their gear, the orchestra, and all of the cast. So at that point, you will see the cast huddled into a space out of the way, trying to keep their costumes dry. Once the cast are trying to stay out of the way, the crew will be running around trying to hold tarps up, hold buckets up, divert water from important bits of gear.
Do you want to know the one thing that I thought that I would never ever have to have in my kit that I now have in my kit? Staple gun. Because if those tarps start falling, boy, you better start stapling, otherwise you're wet.
Favorite memories of doing Hosh when we did the Phantom on the Harbour was we're doing Music of the Night. Beautiful little song, really cute
Love it.
times.
Yeah.
The roof started leaking in the orchestra pit, only in one spot, directly above our keys player. I'm like standing over him with an umbrella behind him while he plays so they can finish the song and then be like, okay, we're going to stop for a second so that we can
Actually deal with
water the orchestra pit. So I'm standing over him with an umbrella. Like I'm spooning this man while he plays keys.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
very romantic.
Yeah. It couldn't be any more romantic.
Look at us here in this wet tarp floor.
Oh, there's a water rat over there.
Yes!
Lovely. Look at this. Pets
I'm
too.
just like spooning this man like, you're doing great, sweetie. And I just had this moment where I was like, this is my job.
Right?
This is my job.
But where does that come into the job description though?
Nowhere.
It doesn't. You just got to do the things.
And thank God, because those chaotic moments of I'm getting paid to do this right now are my favorites.
But I kind of love it though.
They're
Yeah.
so dumb and so wild.
Yeah.
If you like novelty, this is the career for you.
There are so many points where I've had those thoughts where you're just like, is this happening right now? Is this my life? Because I'm getting paid for this and it's kind of cool.
I feel like the demeanor of laughing in the face of things going wrong is exactly what you need to have in
Yeah.
a setting like this.
Correct.
If you see someone running backstage, get the fuck out of the way
Yeah,
because
you
something
better
is
move.
going wrong. There's like a scale. There's I'm running, so something is going catastrophically wrong. Or there is, hey, I just wanted to let you know that this is happening, or this person's mic did this, or this is happening in the band. And my reaction will be like, oh, that's actually exactly what I wanted to happen. Just laughing. Sarcasm,
Correct.
laughing. We laugh so we don't cry. The defense mechanism for my work stress is sarcasm. And then the scale goes to running. And then
Yeah.
it's like everything in between there. Because you have to have that to get through this industry.
And if you don't have people around you in the workplace that understand that and that are also on the same level, that's hard.
After being a freelancer for so long by myself, going into theatre with a team of people, I was like, oh, this is
New.
very interesting, but also so nice because especially being a mic tech, being number 3 in a team, no brain cells. I don't make choices. I just make my little microphones. It was very freeing for my brain for a hot second to just be like, I have my responsibility. Going, that's for the head of department, is my favorite thing. Anthony,
Let's handball that.
God bless you. And you don't get that in like a freelance setting. It's all your problem.
Oh,
It's all your
something
problem.
wrong with lighting, but you don't actually really know what it is. Sorry,
to
it's your
you.
problem.
Yeah.
See you later.
You
Good
need
luck
to
with
fix it.
that. I mean, I think we were even talking about this yesterday. Obviously, the job being a mic tech and then moving up is interesting too because then you've done the job
Yeah.
and you know the problems and you know what's going on. So like I can imagine being like a head of department and being like, hey, this mic tech thing's gone wrong. And you're like, well, I kind of dealt with this so much. I kind of know exactly what's going wrong. Like it's
Yeah.
interesting, although you're like number 3, once you move up, if that's what you want to do at some point, then you know everything.
There are some mic techs who just want to be mic techs forever. And I love that for them.
yeah,
Do
for
that.
sure.
But I think it makes you a much better head of department if you did the
The
mic
steps
tech
moving up.
deputy head, because yeah, like you said, you have to oversee a team of people working all those positions. And if you have the experience of working them, then you actually are able to help them.
Absolutely.
Anthony, I talk about Anthony so much on the channel. He'll be on here eventually. Anthony has been my head of department for Phantom and now for Tina.
Yeah.
And we've worked together for like 2
Something
2 years
like-
straight now. I don't
okay.
know. Lots of years. More than that, actually, almost 3 years. We've worked together for a long time now, and he was a mic tech. He did that role, and so he knows so many things and can offer me so much wisdom instead of just being like, oh, well, I don't know, fix it. If I do have a smooth brain moment and I need help, having that is so great. And having a deputy who was a great mic tech as well is
Yeah.
also the best. And luckily, every deputy I've had has been amazing and very good at their job. The thing that I don't understand about people who are in the industry but who don't enjoy being challenged and who aren't teachable is that as soon as I'm working with someone who's smarter than me, which happens every single day, is that my brain is like, give me all your information. Like,
Yeah.
this is my chance to learn something from you
Absolutely.
because you know better than me. And that's really satisfying. And I'm not a very, like, I can't take criticism. I'm teachable, but I struggle with taking criticism from people that I don't think are smarter than me. So to have people who are smarter than you and who know more than you being willing to invest in you learning things, they should be getting the money that I've wasted on fucking uni. Let's be honest.
Oh, I should have directly deposited them $60,000.
The people who devoted their lives to the music industry stood out. I could always pick them out in a crowd as if there was some secret handshake that until that moment I hadn't known I'd knew. They moved entirely through the cross. This is part of Tana Douglas's chapter in the book, but weren't part of it. I could just tell they were part of something else, something bigger. I love my job.
Thanks,
I love my
guys.
job.
Okay. It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, if you weren't doing the show and if you weren't the mic tech and if you weren't, you know, all these things, like the show wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah. Even though you do sacrifice a lot of your personal community to go on tour and to blah, 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 I feel like you start to find friends within the industry and you run into them. Like you're going to run into
absolutely.
them and you're going to cross paths with them no matter what part of the industry you're still in. And when you see those people again, it's a really wholesome feeling of being part of like a larger
But it's
community.
exactly, yeah, you're just like united in
In trauma.
one group, pretty much like trauma bonding. There's no one else that would understand what you're going through and like how your life is structured and your lifestyle. These are your people.
That really keeps you together as well. I
Mm.
think it's had an interesting impact on the kind of friends that I can keep in my normal life as well. Because if I can't not see you for 6 months and then see you and everything is the same, our friendship is probably not going to last in a
No.
very strong friendship, because that is just the nature of my job. But also I have friends within the industry who I see once a year, maybe.
Absolutely.
But when I see them, it's like nothing has changed. And there is so much like love and affection in those relationships, which is really wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like a couple of years ago when like I went hardcore with like touring and doing stuff, like I lost friends.
Mm.
Like there were people that just were so upset with me because they never saw me. Not that I wasn't willing to invest time into them, whether that's like calling or doing something, but like people just don't understand that. And that's really
Yeah.
hard. You just lose friends.
If you are the friend or family member of a touring person or someone who works in this industry, I implore you, and please turn on your active listening ears for me right now. I implore you to, instead of expecting your touring industry working friend / family member to take a Friday night off to come spend time doing what you want to do when you hate your job, maybe spend a Monday with them. The day that they have off, because
It's a
they
Monday.
actually like their job.
It's a Monday.
So why are they the one taking time off? I have really struggled in the time in the industry with the expectation that we would give up our time on our job, like it's less important. Take a Monday off and hang out with me.
Absolutely.
Like it'd be the same thing, but because there is not that offer, and I would never expect someone else to take time off for me, you just end up missing out on time with people, and it's really hard. The expectation that we can just kind of do whatever we want, or the lack of understanding of what our industry is, really has cost me some friendships that would exist otherwise, purely because there isn't a lot of grace or understanding for our schedule and what we do.
which is not realistic. And it's not like everyone's job or like everyone's lifestyle fits into one like cookie cutter.
No, like
No.
what do you do on your time off? Go out? Yeah, who do you think's working?
Exactly.
Like the rest of us.
That time when you're getting shit-faced, I'm working.
I'm working.
I'm doing things. I'm making money, honey.
doing the lights for you to do this too.
I'm
you know?
probably the lighting tech at the club.
And the
I get
sound
rave at
tech.
4 a.m.
If you don't know someone's schedule or you feel like they're always busy, throwing out a, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'd like to get brunch with you one day, let me know when you're free, feels so much better than getting a, am I ever going to see you? Or like, when am I going to see you? Oh my gosh, this one I feel like a lot of people could read. That was the start of the industry. It was a big learning curve, but a great one. There were a lot of us who swapped information and tricks. You had to ask until people got the shits. If I can give any advice to younger techs who are coming up, starting to work, you will look more like an idiot if you assume you know how to do something and do it wrong or don't bother doing it at all than you will if you ask someone to re-explain something to you. Ask the stupid question. I need to get like a little, you know those old keychains that were like Mr. T and it was like pity the fool when you press it? I need one of those of myself that says, love that. Can you say it again but stupider? Because that is me.
For the person at the back of the bus, please repeat.
Every time. Like I have vivid memories of many, like you could just flip through these memories of me staring Pops in the face while he tells me to do something and going, can you explain that again but dumber? Because I didn't get it. I didn't get it, especially for somebody who dropped out of uni because I wasn't having a good time and I didn't feel like I learned a lot. And then I learned everything on the job. Plug this thing into here and do this thing. It wasn't like, and you're plugging the blabbity blah blah into the blabbity blah blah with the blabbity blah and the this blah blah.
Yeah.
The terminology is not up here as much as I would like it to be because I did not learn that way. I learned in a, I'm going to show you how to do it and then you do it. And this is the outcome we're expecting, but I don't know what the fuck I'm actually doing in the process a lot of the time, or I didn't when I first started. So there's a lot of time where I'm like, I don't understand and I need you to explain it to me in a different way because no one will be annoyed with you having to explain something multiple times the way they're going to be annoyed with you if you just fuck it up because you couldn't be bothered to say that you didn't know what you were doing.
We've been a tech director at the same venue before. Like,
tech directing is a whole other ballgame.
Did we say that we were holding hands through our careers? Because that was the moment for me, like when it was like on the other side of things, when you'd like have casual
to
techs.
babysit the techs.
Yeah, and they'd be like, oh yeah, like I can do this, that's fine. And then you get a call at like 7 p.m. before doors and they're like, hey, this isn't working or this is not how it was. And you're like, did you understand what the thing we were talking about with the thing? And they're like, what thing?
We talked about it.
Ask me the questions before you do anything, before you touch anything.
Also have friends that you can get on the phone with to talk about a problem while you realize you've pressed one singular button you shouldn't have pressed and go, oh, sorry, I had it muted. That is a beautiful time and you will do it. Oh, this isn't working and I don't know why. And then you call someone in a panic like, it's not working and everything is right. Oh, wait, never mind.
The art and the beauty of troubleshooting is a real bitch. I've learned a lot from doing that kind of shit because then you just start to filter things out as you're doing it. Like if something's not working, you're like, it's probably that one thing. Oh, look, it's that one thing that is.
And then forevermore, you will know that that one thing needs to be checked before you panic.
Correct.
I feel like every different workplace setting in this industry as well has a different threshold for when do I just call someone else to tell me what to do in this setting? And it scales not only on, I could probably figure this out in my own time, but it's going to take me 20 minutes. Or if I call someone, they can tell me what to do in 2. Or I genuinely have no idea what I'm doing and this person has to talk me through something I don't know how to do. Example, me a few weeks ago when all of our band lost in-ears and I'm calling Anthony while he's off. He's in Melbourne and I'm like, hey, so we've lost everything. I'm like FaceTiming him so he can see what's going on. He's just like, oh yeah, just do this. But now I know how to do it because it failed again the other day and I did it. There are so many other jobs where I've called someone and been like, I've been looking at this for 10 minutes and I just need the simple way out because I don't have time for this. And that's a good time. And that's what being a tech director is, or being a head of department, or being a PSE. Like you just fix bin fires.
Pretty
and
much.
usually ones that are fixable if the person fixing it wasn't panicked about how little time they have to do it. So yeah, being a tech director was a real learning curve.
It was a learning point. It was a lot. but it was great.
There's audio schools now where people go to learn all this stuff, but they don't really teach the special part of what we do. That bit of paper doesn't impress because you can't teach intuition. It's like being the mafia. Once people have got your number and know you're good, they keep calling, which is so real.
I really don't remember reading that, but that resonates so hard in my soul.
Doing the mental gymnastics of having to anticipate what somebody is going to need and having it sorted, very satisfying. You know what? I can pinpoint one call where I never stopped getting calls after that, and it was a call from you.
What?
It was a call from
What
you.
did I do now?
When I was trying to figure out where I was going to fit in the industry. I was honestly so burnt out from doing tech that I was like, I never want to, like, I don't even think I want to do sound anymore.
That's something else that I wanted to talk about at some point, but
I was like, I don't even think uni burnt me out so much from, and again, this is just our experience. If you loved uni, go off. If uni's right for you, love that for you. But
you're crazy, but that's fine.
I was so burnt out. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And the two turning points of that for me was B, who's in the room, and who you guys know from the fiction side of book club.
Hey, smart
B
stuff.
was like, hey, I'm directing this musical and Matt's going to do sound. Do you want to help him do lights? And I went, I have nothing to live for, sure. And I did that. And it made me remember why I love being part of a show, being part of a gig in the first place. Like that reignited my passion. But then there was a day when you couldn't do a parlor gig for Phil Jameson. And you gave them my number.
Yes.
You being like, I can't do it, but Monique could do it.
Yeah.
That snowballed every job I've had since. I feel like because that happened, every time I went to a place and they were like, I need a tech, I was like, Nicole. And we've just like helped each other grow in so many parts of the industry through that way.
I mean, I can't think of anyone that's had an experience like that before. They've just like had to like bear it and like grit their teeth and like put up with the most heinous shit to get where they are. And I think we're pretty lucky to have that kind of experience.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
It's very wholesome.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I got out of uni was you. Welcome to the emotions.
Thank you so much.
And for a quote that will fill us with rage, when asked why there were so few female roadies, he doesn't hesitate interviewing some guy. Can't remember who it was. If he somehow watches this, sorry, but I think this is really backwards. Being a roadie didn't make sense to your average girl. They could be a groupie or in a band. So why should they put themselves through what the road crew went through? Don't forget that most road crew are failed musicians, so they become roadies to get close to bands. Women had other ways of getting close to musicians. And I just wanted to know, have you succeeded in your obvious career goal of fucking a musician?
Oh, because that's what I've always
really
wanted.
hard.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even tell you.
What?
But how can you just throw that into the book like that? You thinking that women take these jobs just because they want to sleep with the band members? Is that real? Is that a real
I think
life?
that was a...
Did that come from his mouth? Because I would...
Not the author of this book.
Not the
Stuart.
author. No.
Stuart's our angel.
Lovely, yeah.
I didn't even note whose chapter it was because
Do you know
I
why?
didn't
Because
want
it's
to.
not notable. There is no reason it should be noted, Monique.
But I think that's definitely the thought process that a lot of people had, which is one of the barriers that was for women getting into the industry. Like I remember doing a bump in for Coldplay.
We did that together.
All of the American crew, so lovely.
Yeah.
They were great. The pyro guy, he was sick.
Yeah,
Do you remember him with the cannons?
I do.
But the Australian
days.
crew, they sucked, man. They were such
do suck.
dicks. I just remember walking to lunch, and now I'm remembering where we
Probably.
had lunch,
Yeah.
and hearing the Australian guys say, like, she knows she doesn't get to meet the band, right? It was just so stupid. I didn't even say anything because I was just like, that is literally the dumbest thing that I've ever heard anyone say
That
to
is
me
like the
in a
most
professional setting.
Toxic, disgusting behavior.
Truly.
And the worst thing about all of this stuff is the fact that although the industry has progressed with somewhat kind of diversity in the last
Different
5
parts
years,
of it, I think, have more.
For
like
sure.
theatre, women everywhere.
But do you
and
know
it's great.
why? It's because the women are the ones doing it. The men don't do anything. Then what the hell are they doing? Like I feel like there's just like this really weird not joined industry where it's obvious that it needs to be more diverse.
Yeah.
It needs to be more open. It needs to be more encouraging to literally everyone and anyone.
Who's not a cis white man.
Yeah, but it's only the women and the diversity in the community that are the ones that are actually gunning for it. Like, there's no way that on like the men's side of things that they're the ones trying to employ women or trying to make things better. Maybe to like a certain degree. There's probably a percentage of men that are trying. On a larger scale, when you're like trying to change a structure in an industry from how it was, 40 years ago, there is no way that it can change unless like everyone is on board with that. And like it's comments like that really destroy the mentality that it can happen. What is it going to be like in the next 5 years? I really couldn't tell you.
I feel like I haven't had a moment like that in a long time, but that's because I've been working in spaces with people who've had experience working with me or who do work with women often. And then there's just this part of my brain that remembers that that's genuinely the perspective of a lot of people, that women get into the industry to get close to musicians and performers. Okay, historically, let's look at bands in the 80s and 90s and 70s. And I'm going to say with my full chest that it was not hard to sleep with them. Why would anyone get any job just to sleep with someone? And also, why would it not be possible that women enjoyed the work the same way that men did? Crazy.
I mean, it's also quite clear, like, especially in the book, like them basically reiterating the fact that like most of these people in like the 60s, 70s, 80s didn't have a skill set.
They were just
like,
winging it.
Yeah, they were just winging it. Can women also not wing it? This whole mentality like needs to change, but it's not possible like if everyone isn't on board with it.
I think that's why I also loved reading Tana Douglas does a chapter in this, and that made me go, oh, I wish you had a whole book. And then as soon as I read it, she was like, I'm releasing a book. And I was like, put it in my eyeballs. She talks about her experience and her perspective of the industry in that time when it was so open and loud and common for people to be like, girls don't belong here, pretty much. Or like everyone just thought that she was there for getting with the band or whatever. Yeah. And it was just so interesting to read about her perspective of it when it was okay to say stuff like that and when it was so common, whereas I feel like now it doesn't happen as much and it only happens in like places where shit people feel safe.
Correct.
And when you're like starting out, because once you've started cutting your teeth, no one is like, oh, well, you just want to hook up with musicians.
Maybe when I first came out of uni and I was like still doing some like musical aspects of life, I was guitar tech for a very small period of time for Vance Joy with Claire, who actually also has a book. She taught me a lot, and she also was like one of the people that was like, don't take shit from men. That was the biggest thing in life. It's like the thing that's happening right now, like tell them to fuck off and don't take shit from them. And I'm like lucky that I had so many crazy experiences like that. It could have gone either way. Like there could have been some guy that was like teaching me how to do something that would be like, suck it up and move on. You know what I mean? Whereas she was just like taking the time. Obviously there's like a frustration there, and she's like, don't give up. Like don't let these people let you leave the industry just because they're cunts, basically.
There's so many men in my career who've taught me so many great things, but I don't think that I would have lasted or been happy in the industry without the few women that I started meeting who were in the space, who first of all validated my experience of the gender gap and the issues that exist there, and also were like, fuck them, don't even worry about it, keep working. And that is what I want to be for other young women. Absolutely. And what I wanted to do with chatting about this is give other women a view of, oh, there's all these women who are doing it, and let me tell you right now to your face, do not listen to them. Do the gig, mix the gig. You are perfectly capable. You are just as capable as a man. If not, there are many reasons why you are more capable than a man. And I'll die on that hill.
Thank you very much.
Do it out of spite.
Anything in life, though, do it out of spite.
Just swing it back to a wholesome way, since we're talking about encouraging young women out of spite. What would 15-year-old you think about your career now and where you're at, and what advice would you give her?
God, I say this with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth and a bottle of Jack Daniels next to me. My parents, when I was like, in my teenage years, I always wanted to be in the music industry. I had posters on my wall. I was doing music everything, playing many instruments and doing all of the above, playing gigs and stuff. And my parents were like, hey, you know that hobby that you have? Yeah, maybe push that to the side, and nursing sounds fun. Nursing? You want to be a doctor?
I'm trying to imagine you as a nurse, and it's hilarious.
Terrible. Me in scrubs. I mean, I'd wear Crocs for sure. Yeah, my parents were like not supportive at all. And they were just like, and in the true running of spite, I really went full circle with that. And he was like, hey, you remember that thing that you told me that I can't do? I'm doing it. And me as like a 15-year-old would probably be like, that's pretty cool, man. I did the thing that everyone was like, don't do it. You're not going to make money. You're not going to have an income. You can't survive off of being in the music industry. I am. I kind of am, man. Like, that's what's happening. I mean, I would hopefully like to think that I'd be pretty stoked on that. In terms of, turning around to my parents and being like, I did all of this by myself. Obviously with the help of many people, being very encouraging and helping me and
but
putting me
against
out.
all odds and against all people's opinions, really.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know what? Fuck yeah, girl. You get it. You do your thing. And the piece of advice that I would give you based on this experience is don't listen to anyone. Trust your gut. If you think you can do it, I think you can do it. I think that's a thing. I think you need to have persistence. I think that the determination definitely has to be there and you have to be very passionate about what you do. But if you know what you want to do and that's something that you can nurture for your career, I think that's very special. There are people that I know in their mid 30s or 40s that hate their job. They absolutely hate their job. They hate going to work. They hate everything about it, lifestyle. I love my job. Although it's very stressful and there's a lot going on. I think I'm very lucky to be in a position where I can have a lifestyle and make money, but also really be passionate still in this time frame about what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think about that all the time. What I wanted when I was younger was that I looked at life. I grew up in a single parent household and I looked at my mum and I saw how much she worked and how hard she worked and how much she had to work just to survive. And my tiny, smooth child brain went, I'm going to have to work majority of the hours of my life. I want to do something that makes me happy instead of something that I don't really care about. And I feel very lucky that the thing I'm passionate about was able to be turned into income. I think 15-year-old me would be very proud of myself for the fact that I turned that into a livable income and sometimes a more than livable income.
Yeah.
And that every day I go to work thrilled to be where I am and loving what I do, which is why that tinge of annoyance comes in when we're expected to take time off to fit into the schedules of lives of people who hate their job. Because I'm like, you take a day off. You hate your job.
Yeah, you don't want to be
go
there.
to work on a Friday.
Yeah, the Fridays are the best ones.
Friday's the best one. To love what you do every day. That was the quality of life I wanted. I didn't want to live for the weekend. I didn't want to be spending all my time saving for the times when I could free myself from work.
Absolutely.
I wanted to just fucking love what I do.
Yeah.
And I've got that.
Yeah.
And that rules.
I just worked my ass off for months and then took a whole month of work and did a road trip. Who does that?
Beautiful. If you watched Matilda's episode, which you should go and watch, she's just finished a year and a bit long tour with Moulin Rouge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And is just I'm going to go to Europe for 6 months and see what happens. And there are a lot of people, especially in theatre, who do this. They will work for a year, 2 years on a show, and then they'll disappear for a year or 6 months.
Well,
what a good time.
If you can do it.
What a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. The stability's there. And if you have the income to do it and, obviously because the hours we work and stuff, that seems like the most logical thing to do because you don't have your weekends. Yeah. When you're working, you don't have time off. There's no schedule where you're just having nights off with friends and doing these things because you're working every night.
To a degree, all of us have to work to live. Some of us more than others.
You flip it and it's still true.
And if you love what you do, you can be living at work. You know what I mean? If you haven't already shared them, we need to hear your thoughts on this month's book. In order to have spoiler-free chats about the books that we're reading, we are using the book club app Fable. It's free, it's quick and easy to make an account and keep up to date with the Girls on Tour book club. There are 2 separate book clubs, one for the non-fiction book and one for the fiction books. Make sure you head over to our Instagram, TikTok and YouTube page at the start of every month to see what book is coming next. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching if you're watching this on YouTube.